Good morning once again, everyone. I'm so glad that y'all could join me. Yesterday, our lesson left off in chapter 18 of Genesis with Abraham bargaining with Jesus, and because the two angels were walking into Sodom, and Abraham was very concerned not only for his nephew Lot, but also for the city at large. He may have known other people that lived in that city. But now we come upon Genesis 19, and it begins, "And there came two angels to Sodom at evening, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground." One thing that caught me that I had never realized before while getting all this ready yesterday was how Lot's reaction is just like his uncle Abraham's. Just like it. He immediately knows that these are special men. You know he didn't do this to every guest that came into Sodom. But he immediately could see that these were special. Because he runs up and he bows himself, and he goes a little further. And he said, "Behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early, and go on your ways." And they said, "Nay, but we will abide in the street all night." And he pressed upon them, meaning he strongly urged them greatly. And they turned in unto him, and entered into his house, and he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. It's, of course, the Hebrew custom, always has been really, to treat your guest with the utmost respect and show the most courtesy to them. But this is a very special case because Lot brings them in. He says, "Y'all can stay all night." He bakes them a big feast, and they sit right there and they eat. He knows that these are special people. Probably he knows that they're angels right away. And it goes right to what the writer of Hebrews says later is, "Beware lest ye entertain angels." You never know whenever someone's an angel coming in. But perhaps Lot knew. Abraham immediately knew. But notice how these men being godly, Abraham and Lot being godly men, how they knew, but no one else in the city reckoned that these were angelic beings. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. So everyone was interested in these two men. Now they may have all have seen that these were probably handsome men, and that they probably exuded that it factor that Hollywood's always talking about, that kind of, I don't know, Brad Pitt and Chris Hemsworth kind of aura about them. And that it's just interested men, I'd say, and all of them in the city were interested in them. Kind of curious as to what these angels look like. "And they called unto Lot, the people of Sodom, and said unto him, Where are the men which came in to thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them." Of course, we can reckon what they mean by that. They pretty much want to. They may even be figuring that these men, because these are corrupted people of Sodom, they may even be trying to think that these men are gay as well, like homosexual as well, because they're all talking about so that we may know them. They may be figuring that the two strangers would just like to do it. Sodom may have been a place where degradation was just the norm. Everyone who entered in, it was expected, kind of like whatever, Las Vegas with gambling. You're just expected to gamble. Well, in Sodom, you're just expected to engage in this depravity beyond all reckoning. "And Lot went out at the door unto them, and shut the door after him." So he closes the door, he walks out, closes the door behind him, leaves everybody else in. He's trying like Abraham, but he's trying to bargain with the people of Sodom, and he's trying to. It's amazing how Lot and Abraham are the same sort of, but Lot's just in kind of a very, very worse situation. "And Lot said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly, Behold, now I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. And they told Lot, stand back. And they said again, this one fellow, now they're talking to themselves about Lot. This one fellow came in to sojourn, meaning he just came in to stay for a little while, and he will needs be a judge, meaning he's already putting himself in a place of authority over them. Now will we deal worse with thee, with Lot, than with them. So they were planning on just ravaging these angels. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. But the men put forth their hand, the angels put forth their hand, and pulled Lot into the house to them, and shut the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. This quite often happens whenever the presence of God's light shines around. If you'll remember Saul of Tarsus, he went blind after seeing the Lord. The scripture tells us that it's a light to which no man can approach. And it says our God is a consuming fire. That's got other connotations to it. But he's the father of lights. Have you ever looked at a really bright light? I did just the other day. I was putting a bulb into my lamp, and I forgot that, and clicked it on, and all of a sudden it just blinded me. It felt like it blinded me. Well, imagine the father of lights wanting to blind you, like you're blind. There's nothing that you can do. And that's what these angels do to the people of Sodom. And the men said unto Lot, the angels said unto Lot, hast thou here anyone besides you, son-in-law, and thy sons, and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxing great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord hath sent us to destroy it. I believe what it's meaning right here is because the cry of them is waxing great. I believe that what I would take from that, is that these men of Sodom, and the women as well, but all of them, small and great, rich and poor, old and young, they probably killed an awful lot of people in the same manner that they're wishing to do to Lot and these angels. It's easy to skim over whenever Lot says, it's not easy to skim over it actually, but it's easy to miss the stress that was probably upon Lot whenever he says, I have 2 daughters that have never known a man. Here, take them, do whatever you will to them. He probably knew that they would kill both of them. And we'll see here in Judges how woman is done the same way. They take this woman and they just rape her all night until she's dead. And that's probably what the people of Sodom had done to a lot of other people. They'd probably taken them and just ravaged them. And that's how wicked that these people were. Now, they were that wicked. We're told they were exceedingly evil. And so the cry of them is waxing great. That was probably talking about the victims that these people had just torn apart. But just imagine that, Lot knowing that his 2 daughters were going to be more than likely killed, raped to death by this mob. That's how strenuous of a spot that he was in. It's horrific. This was a very tense moment in the scriptures. And I would say that Lot was really wishing that he was anywhere else. Have you ever been in a situation in life where you're thinking, how did I get myself into this? Oh, I've been there. It's a dozen times where I was like, what am I doing? Why did I get myself into this? It was a lot of times whenever I'd go to pick up drugs, I remember I always hated going to get drugs. I did. I always did. Oh, I just hated it. I wanted to get high really, really bad, but getting the drugs was the most horrible part because it always seemed like something happened. It always seemed like something was just going to happen. You always had that feeling, and it was always you was just nervous the whole time to the point of almost throwing up. And many times cops wouldn't trail me for years. And it seemed like once I started getting drugs, it's just like, I don't know. It's like I was the guy that they just happened to be behind that night. Probably didn't know a thing. They was probably just driving behind me, but we got pulled over several times, man. My buddies, we got pulled out of the car and we got searched. And I would often think, how did I get myself into this? And then it would be at the drug dealer's house. Something would get said, something would be heated. It was never a pleasant thing. Never a pleasant thing. It was always, I was meeting up with these new people and they were, it's just, and drugs and money and everything's getting thrown around. And I'd often think to myself, how did I get myself into this? What am I doing? It's like the prodigal son, he came to himself where he's in the pig slop and he's going, what am I doing, man? And I would say that Lot was in that same situation. Oh, what I wouldn't give to be out of this, I said. That's probably what Lot said. And Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, Up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. Like they probably thought he was drunk or something, just coming in there. The Lord's going to destroy the place. You got to get out. And you have to realize, even Lot seems to linger over this. And when the morning arose, then the angels hastened Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. Catch that. When the morning arose. So the people of the city were all blind. These people were all still blind. Whenever you see it in the movies, they're only blind for 5 minutes or so, and then it starts raining down upon them. No, this was quite a ways on. They were probably blind for 5-6 hours, just staggering around. Imagine that terror. First blindness comes over you, and then all of a sudden, and we're going to get to what rained down upon them. It's horrifying to think about this. And while Lot lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth and set him without the city. They're saying, what are you doing? Really, leave the city. That's what we're doing today with the coming of Christ. We're just, we know he's coming back. But it's like, get on the ball, man. Start preaching the gospel. Do you not know that heavenly rewards are to be gained for this, and souls to be saved, and that there's going to be a great time of darkness and these 4 horsemen of the apocalypse? And it's like, well, get on the ball. I mean, if you really, truly believe that the Lord's coming back, why not do something, anything for the Lord, instead of just watching games and such? But Lot was doing the same thing. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, Escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain, escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And Lot said unto them, Oh, not so, my lord. Now remember, he has his wife and his 2 daughters. His son and his sons-in-law, they stayed behind. They just thought he was joking around, drunk, stupid, acting dumb. So, but he asked them this, whenever they told him to go to the mountain. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast showed unto me in saving my life, and I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me, and I die. Behold, now this city is near to flee unto, and it is a little one, just a small city. Oh, let me escape thither. Is it not a little one, and my soul shall live? So Lot's saying, I don't want to go to the mountains. The whole family may be killed by going to the mountains. He says, rather let me go to this little city right on over here. It's a neighboring city. And he said unto him, See, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow this city for thee which thou hast spoken. So he's talking to Lot about not destroying the city that he's requesting to go to. Apparently he was going to destroy that city as well. But Lot said, it's a small city, just a little bitty thing. He says, just let us go into that. Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou be come thither. Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar. Upon trying to look up the meaning of the name Zoar, the best that I could conclude is that it means a little one, ignoble. So that must be why they named it Zoar. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. Every time that you see the destruction of Sodom, and there was several other cities destroyed, the sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. So every time that you see it in the movies, it's always dark, right? Well, in the Bible, it's sunlight. It's daytime. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. This would have been absolutely terrifying. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I've heard this story a million times. But upon looking up some research on this, they actually say in Forbes magazine, a very liberal magazine, mind you, they talk about this very event. This Forbes article says, new science suggests biblical city of Sodom was smote by an exploding meteor. And you see in this picture right here, it says the foot of Mount Sodom near the plain where the biblical city of the same name may have been. So right here is something right around that area. New research finds that a powerful airburst from a meteor colliding with the atmosphere may have wiped out a Bronze Age civilization along the north side of the Dead Sea some 3,700 years ago. While the findings come from the excavation of the Tel El Haman archaeological site in Jordan, many believe that the same place was once known as Sodom. Yes, as in Sodom and Gomorrah from the Bible, Torah, and Quran. The cities of sin, supposedly destroyed with brimstone and fire sent from God. Samples from the site show that an extremely hot, explosive event leveled an area of almost 200 square miles, including the Middle Gore, a circular plain to the north of the Dead Sea, not only wiping out 100% of the Middle Bronze Age cities and towns, but also stripping agricultural soils from the once fertile fields. So powerful was the event that they liken it in this article to the Tunguska incident of 1908. Now imagine being blind and then hearing a loud bang, and then you just pummeled with meteor rocks all around you. This would have been absolutely terrifying. This was not a small event. This was probably widely known throughout the world, just like the Tunguska event's known to us. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and that which grew upon the ground. It even tells us right here exactly what the article says, and that which grew upon the ground. Everything was destroyed, no longer able to be inhabited forever. But Lot's wife, whenever they were fleeing, Lot's wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. Now, there is an old tradition that says that this rock formation is Lot's wife. She was turned into a pillar of salt, and a pillar, as we all know, it's similar to that. I wouldn't be dogmatic about that. That's just it could easily just be an old rock formation. But Jesus says, remember Lot's wife, how she looked back and still loved and desired the city of Sodom. That's probably the reason why she was turned into that, because she looked back. Jesus said, any man who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is not worthy of the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, she was probably just missing the city, wanting to go back, maybe even wanting to join them in the destruction of them. She may have totally loved the city, and that's why she was turned into this. That's conjecture on my part, but it's kind of educated given how God works in the Bible. And Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he stood before the Lord, and he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the plain, and beheld, and lo, the smoke of the country went up as the smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in the which Lot dwelt. Just as we talked about yesterday, how for your sake, being a friend of God, God will look after those in whom you love. He says God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow. And Lot went up out of Zoar, the city, and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zoar. And he dwelt in a cave, he and his 2 daughters. So they're in a cave now. They come out of the city, go into a cave. They were probably in this cave for quite a while, mind you. And his wife's dead, probably some of his friends within the city were dead, and they didn't know what to do. They were in fear of the people of Zoar. They were in a cave. They had wine and probably a little bit of provisions, but that's about it. And the firstborn said unto the younger, Our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come in unto us after the manner of all the earth. His daughters actually thought that the world was destroyed, that God went ahead and destroyed the whole world, because they had probably heard about Noah and how the rainbow would be sent, that God would never flood the earth again, but God never said he wouldn't put fire on the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. I'm not really surprised at them coming up with such a thing, being they probably grew up in Sodom and around Gomorrah and such. They incest was probably not a big thing to them, probably the norm. And they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went and lay with him, her father, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. And it came to pass on the morrow that the firstborn said unto the younger, Behold, I lay yesternight with my father, let us make him drink wine this night also, and go thou in, and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger arose and lay with him, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. That just basically telling you he was blackout drunk. That's what that means, because he doesn't know what's happening. He's just blacked out. Thus were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father. And the firstborn bare a son, and called his name Moab. The same is the father of the Moabites unto this day. So we see the enemies of Israel, Moabites, coming and starting from this same night. And the younger, she also bare a son, and called his name Benami. The same is the father of the children of Ammon unto this day. So here's the Moabites and the Ammonites, pretty much always enemies of the Jewish people, all beginning in this one cave. So you see the reverberating effects of one act. There you all have it, my friends. Chapter 19. We will begin chapter 20 tomorrow, God willing. God of all peace be with you. Amen.